Hello, everyone, and welcome to LabGab, a talk show about the virtual world of Second Life. I'm your host, Strawberry Linden. Today, we have a very special show featuring two very special guests, both of whom are making their second appearance on LabGab. I'm excited to welcome back Linden Lab Executive Chairman Oberwolf Linden and the original founder and current strategic advisor of Second Life, Philip Linden. Welcome back to the show.
Hi there.
Hey,
Happy to be here.
Strawberry.
How you guys doing?
Well, I'm relaxed and enjoying the Adirondack kind of feeling we've got going on here.
So you like my studio, huh? So I did call you
do.
Philip Linden, but you're still Philip Rosedale with your avatar here. What's going on with that?
I know that a lot of Second Life people will laugh when I say this, which is I haven't been in the world, a lot in a while. And when I got my Philip Linden avatar back, I had the wrong avatar on me. I had one that was not the original oldest one that I wanted to find, which somebody had given me for my Philip Rosedale avatar. So in short, my Philip Rosedale avatar, who you see here before you, is wearing my preferred look as Philip Linden. And with your help, Strawberry, and the team, I will correct that so that the next time you see me in world, I will look like this, but I will be Philip Linden.
I love it. Your avatar is iconic, and I'm really glad to hear that you are holding on to it. So we did a call to the community, letting them know, and they submitted over 300 questions. I'll try to cover as much as I can. Let's jump right into it. So let's discuss the recent announcement we had a couple of weeks ago. Can you share with us more details on what is happening with the high fidelity investment and Philip's return to Second Life?
Well, Brad, you want me to go first on that?
I do.
Sure. I mean, if I could back up a little bit and say, for those who don't know what High Fidelity's been doing for the last 10 years, it might kind of help explain. We've been working for those who know, since about 2013, actually, on, new experiments in virtual reality. We built an entirely new system designed for the VR goggles. And about 2 years ago, or actually in 2019, just before COVID, we concluded that the VR headsets, the goggles, were not going to be successful enough to build the kind of thing that we wanted to build, which frankly is Second Life. It's the experience of an open, buildable social environment. And in particular, we were really concerned that the VR headsets are neither accessible nor inclusive nor widely enough used yet to be able to create this kind of experience entirely in them. And so we gave up on working on the headsets and looked for what other things we were going to try with the technology we had built. Now, one of the things we built was spatial audio, which is a remarkable, really, really good way of doing 3D audio that we've licensed to companies like Clubhouse. And we're going to continue, High Fidelity is going to continue doing spatial audio, which is what you see when you go to our website. But what we wanted to do was find a home for the team and technology that we had built on sort of, I guess, on the Metaverse side, if you will. And that is what, I guess, Brad, over the last, less than a year, we've been talking about it. And we realized that, the best possible thing for us to do was to get that team and the technology and our efforts behind Linden Lab and Second Life once again, because looking at everything that's happened, especially over COVID, I'm struck by how this is the best world for all of the world to be exploring, where virtual reality goes next. I think Second Life is still, to this day, the place to explore the cutting edge of what virtual worlds can mean. And it is doing it in a way that is not causing harm. And that was one of the things that really mattered to us. So in the end, we decided to bring ourselves over to Linden Lab. And as you said, I'm here as an advisor. And I think 7 people from our team joined full time. And we are absolutely delighted to be back and thinking about things here again.
Absolutely agree with everything you said about Second Life being the best. We've also had several questions come from the community wanting both of you to elaborate a bit about what this means for the future of Second Life and also the future of High Fidelity.
Well, why don't I jump in and just talk about from Second Life's perspective.
Hmm.
So first of all, the fact that 300 questions came in is so energizing, and I talk a lot about just having people be happy at work and energized, and that was really special. So I'm glad to see the engagement that you bring to the table, Strawberry, and all the residents bring. I really look at this in three different ways. Where categories. There's the personal category, there's the business category, and then there's the more meta category, pun, I guess, intended. From the personal side, from the personal side, Philip and I have been friends for a very long time. We we drive in the same RV up to Burning Man every year. Philip's been one of my, it's very rare in life where you like someone, you respect them, and you kind of want to emulate them. Those three things rarely come together, and they come together for me with Philip. He's just a personal friend and someone I respect deeply. So having the opportunity to have him connect in the way we were connecting anyway on weekend walks and grabbing a beer here and there, being able to connect in more of a formal way is very gratifying. On the business side, as everyone here knows, being in charge of Second Life is a great responsibility. And I don't even see myself as being in charge of Second Life. I say all the time that the residents are in charge, that people will vote with their feet, and that it's very important. But being so wanting help on vision is absolutely critical. I rely very much on the team, Strawberry, as you know, but also getting people outside to help me with vision, almost tactically and strategically, is really helpful. And then the third thing is the meta that I talked about. And really what that's about is I really believe that all of this talk about metaverse and metaverses and all the different ways that this is going to work together, I think it needs a moral compass. I think if we leave it up to large companies that have based their whole monetary system. Look, servers cost money.
Yeah.
Running Second Life, there's an infrastructure. We have engineers. So do the other ones. And so leaving it up to the business model of behavior modification, and Philip can talk into the technical aspects of VR and things. I think that could be very dangerous. And so bringing Philip on, I view him as the moral compass of the metaverse right now. And I think he's established himself as that over years of dedicating himself to making things better and keeping the residents, not just in Second Life, but in all of his worlds, at the forefront of his mind. And being able to have that to rely on, being able to have the moral compass, was really what was at the end the third and really exciting part of this.
For sure. And Philip, what about the future of high fidelity?
Well, as I said, there's a smaller team at High Fidelity. I'm on the board, and they're doing a great job selling, licensing the spatial audio technology that we've built to other companies. The one that you can easily try it out on, and I'm sure some people in the community have tried it, is the product called Clubhouse, where you can sit and chat with people. Spatial audio means that you hear them all in 3D around you, like you do with Second Life Voice as well. But our technology is a little bit better for that, and they're doing great, and they're selling that product, and we're having fun, and the business is going well, but just with a smaller team and with no focus on virtual worlds now.
Okay, so Philip, can you also share specifics on what your new role as strategic advisor will encompass? The community is asking if this means that you will be involved in an advisory capacity or day-to-day decision-making at Second Life.
My role is an advisory role, meaning that I'm not responsible for day-to-day decision-making. What I am doing, though, is, things like this, but also things like meeting with the team or with different groups inside the company when they would like help from me or ideas from me on what to do. Everybody that knows me knows that I'm at heart an engineer and a product strategist. So I think that, in addition, as Brad said, to, hopefully continuing in a more, direct way to be a compass for the decisions that we make as a company. I love kind of being involved in conversations about, what to do next. I think, like Brad said, Second Life is such a wonderful thing, and it has such a great, rich set of decision makers. Everybody is in it together, whether we like it or not sometimes, right? In all the decision making. And I think that in that regard, I get to be, a voice at the table again, in a more direct way, but just one of many voices. So I'm looking forward to it. We're setting up little get-togethers already and doing them.
Well, we're looking forward to all of it too. So you've both been close friends, like Oberwolf was telling us earlier, for some time now. And many in the community predicted that we might see the two of you working closely together at Linden Lab. Can you tell us a bit about how you both initially met, and what role, if any, did your friendship play in getting Oberwolf interested in Second Life?
Well, I can tell you, I remember the day we met because I was such a goofball that day. I was trying to close my first real business deal in my career, like a big one. Philip had invited me out with someone else, or we had somehow gotten, and we were going to go on a boating trip, a sailing trip around the bay. And before I could get on it, I was on my cell phone. This is a long time ago, with no reception, like yelling into a cell phone more obnoxiously. I was so young, more obnoxiously than any movie you've seen, so embarrassed. And I look over and there's Philip looking at me with this beautiful curiosity on his face, as if he was in some sort of a safari and I was some species that he hadn't yet come across. We went out on the boat all day and we started talking, and we came back for a dinner, and he called his wife, Yvette, and said, "You've got to come down and meet this person. You guys are going to be fast friends." And we ended up sitting at the end of the table and not even realizing that everyone had gotten up and gone home. And so Yvette is one of my best friends, and Philip is one of my best friends. And fortunately, I don't yell into my cell phone anymore. And so we are able to hang out a lot more.
That's great. I was just going to say, I'm on a boat. Yeah, we met on a boat, and Brad was a little bit like that. What was it, Tom Cruise in Rain Man, when he's like doing deals and moving the cars around on lifts and stuff? He was on his phone and busy, and yeah, I was like, who's this guy? And yeah, we had a mutual friend that had organized a sailing trip around the bay. So yes, that's how we met, and maybe 10 years ago, something like that.
What a great
even
story.
A little more now. Yeah.
So how did you get him interested in Second Life, or were you behind that?
Oh, I don't even know who. I mean, Brad was always fascinated by it. And at some point, I think I think I was sharing with Brad that the company, that Linden Lab Second Life was curious about selling itself, was exploring, selling the company. And Brad said, "Wait a second, hang on, hold on a second. You mean those people are going to sell Second Life? Let me, and he probably got right on his phone, just like we're.
I think we were on the way to Burning Man, so I was unfortunately in the back of the RV yelling in my phone again. So I thought it was the last time I had done it was 12 years ago, but apparently not. Yeah. So and I do think that from Second Life's point of view, I would love. Unfortunately, we'll never know. But if Second Life had gotten, this is a interesting company to be a part of, the company behind it, because there is a company behind it. And yet the world is so different than a company in some ways. In other ways, it mimics the physical world very closely, Second Life. So we'll never know if Second Life was better off because I was one of the people that ended up owning it, or not. But I do think that that there was a great danger if it had gotten into the wrong hands of someone who wanted to squeeze Second Life for more cash. We have a much different view, and as I'm sure the residents know, how much we've invested already into our commitment to make Second Life better without knowing what that exactly means. That's why it's a tricky company. Saying I want to make Second Life better, that there's not a natural that then the next question is, oh, so what are you going to do? Oh, I'm not sure. It's kind of a mystery. So it takes, for better or for worse, it takes some folks that are sort of more loose and more easygoing and more open to the way the world works to run a company like this successfully, I think.
I think adding on to that, one thing I would say, and I think it was an easy decision to bring the group, in this present transaction back and get going again. It was a super easy decision, but I would say one of the things that was really interesting and fun about this was that when I left my role, when I left Linden Lab originally to start Coffee and Power and then ultimately start High Fidelity with my co-founders Ryan and Frederica, I didn't know whether I had built a good company. In a cultural sense, like I knew that I had built something amazing in terms of Second Life, but I had a lot of concerns about whether I was doing it right, like as a CEO, and did I manage correctly, and did we do things right? And I think that over time, as Brad just kind of touched on, it has become more apparent that it takes a really special kind of company to steward something like Second Life in the way that it has all these years. And so it's been kind of fun to feel to come back and feel like the culture, which is very much still the culture of Linden Lab that it was when I left, has been able to support Second Life as well as it has for so long. So I feel really good about that, and obviously I feel like I had something to do with it initially, and so it's really nice to come back and not feel any stress like, geez, did I do the right thing there? I feel certain now that I did.
Well, being a Second Life resident for almost 15 years now and being a very active resident, I would have to agree and say that I feel like it is a good thing that Oberwolf bought the company and you are back, so especially for the community and the residents. So Philip, I know that you've still visited Second Life over the years, even after you moved on to your other projects. A resident asks, did it take much convincing for you to decide to get involved again with Second Life? And what do you think of Second Life as it exists in 2022? And is that different from what you originally envisioned 2 decades ago? Almost 2 decades.
I swear we're not trying to. It looks like it seems like we're pre-answering each next question in the existing question. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was easy. No, it didn't take any convincing at all. I mean, it felt like a perfect thing to do. And as to what I think of Second Life now, I mean, I think that it's incredibly similar in a lot of ways. That's heartwarming. I mean, there's just an endless. I mean, obviously, as we all know, Second Life is constantly transforming itself as the actual people and stuff in the world changes, and so it's always a delight to come back and kind of go to an event. Or I remember going to one of Drax's book clubs, coming back and seeing where the world had gone to. I think it was is it Circe, or I'm trying to think, Beyond AM Radio as a great artist in here. Like there's just like to see some of the newest artists that were building spaces that just blew me away. I can remember, gosh, I wish I could remember the space, but there was a place I think maybe 6 months ago that I was wandering around in World, and I was just floored. I was just having that moment that we all have lots in Second Life, where I was just like, come on, you got to be kidding me. I was running around this big amazing sim, and so I think it's pretty, it's Second Life is this beautiful sort of standing wave, right? It's changing all the time. It's never the same place twice, but it's still in a lot of ways the same as what I remember. I'm as comfortable there as ever.
I remember AM Radio. Some of his art, like art installations were amazing, and now we even have so much more talent. We have Brino and Sika Ghosts and so forth. So many talented digital artists in Second Life.
Sika, yeah, that's I think one of the spaces.
Oh, she creates wonderful exhibits. So, have you both heard of this thing called the Metaverse? I hear it's like the next big thing. But in all seriousness, lots of people want to know what you make of Facebook's repositioning itself as Meta and its future ambitions as an overseer of the metaverse. Philip, what advice or cautions would you give Facebook, given your role as founder of Second Life?
Well, I think I'd say something like, don't do it. That's about it. As I think Brad touched on this earlier, I mean, this is really one of the places where that sort of idea, the moral compass, comes in here. I am struck now in a way that I was not 10 years ago, because we just didn't have as much data as we have now, by the risk of harm through misusing communication and social media type things. And in particular, I just will be a broken record and say the thing that I've been saying to everybody that will listen to me, which is, please understand that the business model associated with attention, with essentially showing people things, suggesting things to them, showing them ads designed to maximize their attention toward whatever you're showing them and get them to do something. People call this different things. They talk about surveillance because, surveillance capitalism because it's gathering data. They talk about behavior modification because so much of it increasingly powerfully is capable of kind of, manipulating your behaviors. But no matter how you look at it, a business whose core design is to do that, to do advertising, to do targeting, if that business is successful building a virtual world like this, the potential for human harm is hard to overstate. Yeah. And the reason for that is that as we go into these worlds more wholly as beings, we give more of ourselves to the world. If the people running the world are surveilling that data, building NPC avatars with AIs, for example, that are taking advantage of that surveillance of you, the end game for us is not one we want to see out. It's a terribly dangerous situation. So taking the ad business that companies like Facebook and Google have been using to great success and parlaying that into a metaverse is extraordinarily dangerous for human beings. By comparison, and this is one of the things that made the decision to return so easy, Second Life has demonstrated clearly that it can have a great, very successful business by charging people fees for things, for land, for transactions, not by capturing data about them, targeting them, changing their behavior, selling them ads, or showing them ads that are sold to other people. So we make more money. I've said this a bunch of times in the last couple of weeks with help from Brad in terms of some of the statistics backing it up. We make more money per person that's using Second Life than YouTube does per person watching videos, or Facebook does per person using their social network. That's a huge achievement, and it's proof that we can build a virtual world, and a virtual world can be done for 1 billion people as well as it can be done for, say, 1 million here, that is safe with respect to its impact on people. And so I think it's incredibly important that we do it that way. Sorry, I'm carrying on about that. I'm so happy to be back helping Second Life continue to be a North Star with respect to how something like a metaverse can be monetized.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
If I can add, Strawberry, one of the things that Philip said, proof point is that we make more money. We also spend more money on per resident. And I think that that's a critical component, because there will be decisions that we're all going to make going forward as not necessarily competition, because I don't think of different metaverses as competition necessarily. Everyone's going to have their own sort of thing. But we, and this isn't a complaint, we reinvest a lot of money, and this isn't about Brad and or Oberwolf and the current ownership. There has been money invested in Second Life for quite some time. And that's the beauty of it. That's the, you know, that's the most attractive thing, I think, right? YouTube is based on scale. The YouTube, it doesn't cost YouTube much more money, or Netflix, or Instagram, to add another user. And that's why their business model is so good. But because it depends on scale, it has to do all the things that scale businesses do, which are get lots of users in any way possible, advertise to them in any way possible. And Facebook and Google, they're no exception to that. And that's why they make so much money. Our business model being different, it more closely resembles the physical world. I rent my home, and people pay for cars with leases, and gas costs money. That's the way the physical world does. If we ever say and make an announcement, we're going to make Second Life free, it's either, there's no way that that's going to happen without having some other way to pay for servers and engineers and all those things. And so, so I think it's very tied together, what you asked, and also just the physics of running a world. They can't be separate. And so a lot of what I spend my time on is trying to balance wanting to make things better, the profit and loss of a company, and you know, how that interrelates. And that's what's going to be so. I don't feel that Facebook has a Philip Rosedale on staff, and so I think they're going to make very different decisions.
Very good. I agree.
Yeah.
So Phil, this moment must seem very surreal for you. Many of the pioneering ideas and concepts about virtual world, cultures, communities, and economies have been envisioned, evangelized, and executed on by you for at least 2 decades now, maybe more, obviously more. And now the media's fascination with the metaverse means that it is all getting mainstream validation. How does it feel to be in the center of it all?
Well, it feels a little bit, it is a little nice to have maybe a bunch of people coming back to talk about this all again. But, you know, Strawberry, I mean, for those who remember, and a lot of us here that go back to the beginning, remember, you know, 2005 and 2006, we had 500 media articles written about Second Life every day. And more than half of them were on paper back in those old days when we often used paper. And it's just crazy, like the level of interest that the world had in the idea of a virtual world. You know, we're not even, amazingly enough, I think even with Facebook, you know, Meta and all this stuff, we're still not even to the level of like worldwide kind of brand awareness, if you will, that Second Life, you know, enjoyed there for a couple of years. So I've kind of felt that before, but I think this time I have that really strong passion that it be done in a way that's safe. You know, it feels like this incredibly powerful moment for all of us in the world of tech, where we are now reckoning some of the things that have been done wrong. And there are things, right? We're all looking at, you know, things like wealth inequality and bias, you know, and racism, and all the things that technology has not just gone and fixed, or in many cases has made worse.
Yeah.
And, you know, it matters that we really be thinking deeply about those things. And, you know, as we keep touching on here, I think that there is an opportunity to do virtual worlds well, meaning in a way that is helpful to people. But there's also, boy, a lot of opportunities to do them very badly. And so, you know, it's like exciting to see people talking about it again. And yes, it feels good to be, you know, called the OG metaverse person or whatever. But it's also, you know, kind of daunting, because I feel like, whew, you know, I have this, you know, heavy feeling of like, look, everybody, I don't think you all know in how many different ways this could all go terribly wrong, you know. And when I talk to people about all of this stuff in the press, as I have been a lot over the last week or so, it's remarkable, I think, how you know, people just aren't considering some of the, you know, risky things that are going on here, like we just talked about business model. But there are many more to worry about.
Well, you are the OG, that's for sure. Oberwolf, I can imagine that you are also feeling that this is all a bit surreal. It has now been a year since you stepped in as co-owner of Linden Lab. As a seasoned entrepreneur, you are now overseeing a company that is at the epicenter of two of the hottest tech trends of virtual economies and the metaverse. What are your thoughts about Second Life and Linden Lab now that you've been at the helm for a year, and what has surprised you the most? And what do you see as our biggest challenge in the year to come? Lots of questions for you.
Yeah, well, I'll try to parse them out and not start with utter panic. Being at the helm of a company like this at the convergence of two of the hottest trends out there, and even ones that you didn't mention. I mean, if you think about security and other trends that people are focused on, we have to think about that too. Second Life, I don't know what the definition of metaverse is, but Second Life is a world, and it operates so much more closely to the physical world than people think in reality. So my first thing is lucky. This was not what we expected, and so it's been wonderful. I do have that sense of panic. The responsibility that I feel is more of the surreal. And I'm not sure that everyone understands. Like, for example, Tilia is a highly regulated company because what we didn't know, and I say we loosely because I wasn't here 8 years ago, which is that the brainchild, the most impressive, or one of the most impressive things that Philip did, was also regulated. And, that's not a laughing matter. So, there's a lot of work. There's a lot under here that is really important to make this all work. So the part that I was surprised is how it changed from, in my eyes, how quickly it went from being I say job, but that's, from being a job to being a responsibility. That happened really quickly. And that was really surprising. And then the last part is how much fun it would be. I say it to the team. I mean, there is not a day that goes by being at the helm of this company where you do not put your head in your hands for some reason. It's often because something so wonderfully funny happened, but it's also because it's a crazy company to be at the helm of. So I've never had more fun at work. So that's great.
I have to say, I can remember this story, Brad. When Brad began day to day, like meetings and came into the experience fully and kind of got briefed, on everything that was going on. I think there was a point where we went for a walk or something, or Brad came over, and I know in my mind, I was like, how is he going to respond to the madness of all this stuff, and I think there was a moment where I looked at Brad and I thought, what's he going to say? Because he had, done a, first week of meetings or something. And he just had this childlike, he was just like, it's so crazy. Do you realize how much stuff is going on in there? Have you heard about that? And he's just delightedly like telling me about all the, I don't know how you put it, Brad, but he was like, every day I get told something that I can't even believe that this thing could even exist. And that I get to like sit in a meeting and, hear people opining about what to do next about it. I think you were just talking about how complicated it all was. And I know Brad, and I'm going to, Brad's not going to brag for himself, but Brad is a very, very, very intelligent person. And I know that what I remember was he was just so delighted to be like so challenged by the enormous complexity of all the moving parts of Second Life. So that's what I remember.
Well, as an employee, I have to say that it's crazy fun being an employee here too. Love my job. Well, now that the metaverse is coming of age, so to speak, how do you plan on bringing crypto, Web3, NFT, and Second Life together within the metaverse?
It's like a breakfast cereal list.
Right.
Crypto, Web3, and with NFT.
Yeah.
We were the original crypto and we were the original NFTs. It's really true. Second Life's currency, although of course, as we know, it's very different than a blockchain currency. it's different in any number of ways. We could talk about that, but we were an original, currency in a virtual world that floated freely against other currencies and was traded in and out of the system. As Brad mentioned, that's complicated. Took a lot of work to do that, a lot of regulatory work, and we've now built that into its own business. The idea of the NFT is even more fundamental in the sense that now, not the NFT that is burning up the earth by running the Ethereum blockchain, but the idea of the NFT as a transferable digital asset. I can take the coffee cup on the table here and I can click on it and see that it's strawberries, and if Strawberry wants to sell it to me, it can have a price on it, and if I do buy it from her, there's copy mod transfer as to what I can do with it once I buy it. That idea that the primitives themselves, the atoms of the virtual world, would be these transferable kind of tracked assets, digital assets, was fundamental to Second Life. And of course, philosophically, and I love conversations like this, but we can wax on philosophical about the degree to which that concept of owning things versus being able to kind of right click and copy everything. There is wonderful and rich debate, on all sides about, the merits of that kind of thing. But the fact remains that, there's what I think Brad says, there's billions and billions of assets in Second Life. And almost all of those are actually these, alienable is the legal term, these transferable digital assets. And that's made, the core of the system. So how do we bring these new ideas into the metaverse? Well, maybe we don't need to at all, because some of these new ideas we invented, they're we're doing it,
Yep.
As well as anybody else. That said, I think that as the noise around crypto and NFTs, I'll just leave Web3 aside as a kind of an amalgamated statement that kind of wraps around both of those. But as the noise and the experimentation, starts to settle around what those words really mean to people, and where they have value and where they might have danger, I certainly think that we're as well positioned as, we are the best positioned company to sort of, play around with that and think about it. That said, another thing that is an observation I would make about Second Life that I think is different now than what I would have said, say 10 years ago, is that Second Life is this co-created thing where every feature, even every bug, every tiny property of the grid of the simulation of the world has been taken up in a million different ways by the millions of different people who have built content here. And what that means is that the world is delicate in that you cannot just you cannot just up and change something that somebody wants you to change without almost certainly breaking a bunch of stuff that somebody else has already made. And so there's a kind of a durability to Second Life and an inability to change it rapidly that I think is actually an asset. I think there are lots of things we can think about doing next, but one thing that is maybe something people worry about that is, at least from my perspective, pretty obviously something that can't be done, is to just, click a button and, change something inside Second Life as we know it today to embrace, new ideas. I think in general, Second Life just can't be made to change that quickly. And I know, by the way, that was something that Brad really reflected on when he came in as well, as I remember those first few months, was his saying, this is so complicated. It's, it's more of a stewardship thing than a, figure out what crazy thing to do next with it. And I think that's all the more true today than ever.
Okay, so another question that we kept getting from the residents, will Second Life ever have VR capabilities?
Well, yeah, sure.
Oh, sorry. So I'm going to let Philip answer that question in his way. I'm going to answer it more with the previous question in mind as well.
Okay.
So when we look at these new technologies and new business models and new ways of doing things, NFTs, and I couldn't agree with Philip more about the Second Life had NFTs since the beginning. Yes, they're not on the chain, but I look at some of them and there's a technical reason why we can't do it, and there's a sort of an emotional and societal reason why we shouldn't do it. And there's some parts like that are just so easy. Like, if it's not broken, why fix it? I mean, we've got things figured out. We do 1.6 million transactions a day. You're not putting that on the blockchain. It's just not going to happen. But what these other things have done is they're building things from scratch in a new way. And if I was afraid of anything, it would be the following. In business and in life, I have found a few things that I live by. One is, you don't know whether something is good or bad. Oftentimes for years, you think something happens and it's just the most wonderful thing, and then it turns out it was actually not that great. You think something's just a disaster, and then it turns out it wasn't that bad. That takes years. The other thing is, if you don't like change, you will like irrelevance much less. So what I'm afraid of is that we say no to everything new without really seeing what could be a benefit. Are we going to turn 2 billion items, 8 million items on the exchange right now? 8 million. Are we going to turn those into NFTs? Absolutely not. There is no way that even if we wanted to, we couldn't do it. And it would destroy things. Are we going to let the Linden dollar be tradable on Coinbase? It just won't work. We could do that, but why? Number one. And what happens if that virtual beer that you're buying trades, the coin trades on Coinbase, and all of a sudden it becomes $3? Well, then what do? The club owner can't really sell it because they haven't changed the price, and the buyer doesn't want to buy it anymore because now those Linden dollars are worth so much more. And then tomorrow it all crashes 10x. So there's no reason to do that. At the same time, it would not be prudent as Second Life residents to blanket ignore everything. There are some guardrails. I'm very passionate about the NFTs and the environment and how we would do that. We're actually looking at offsetting all the carbon for all the servers and computers, and spending that money, just because that's the right thing to do for the world. It's more complicated than I wish it was. I wish I could just write a check, but we'll get there. But it would not be good for Second Life if we did not at least look at these things and be very open to the community, the residents. There are a group of people, a group of residents who absolutely don't want us to look at any of this stuff. And that's okay, because they may be right. But there's another group of potential residents who have grown up crypto native, who have grown up in a way where they actually believe that this all is the better way. And we may look antiquated. And if that ends up hurting Second Life, then that's an equal shame. And it's probably somewhere in between. But right now, we have no plans on changing anything in Second Life as it relates to the three things you mentioned: crypto, Web3, and NFTs. And I don't know if someone one day says, hey, look, I just bought an NFT for $100,000 on OpenSea, and I'd really like to put that in my home in Second Life. I think we should look at that. But we're not moving to a 2 billion NFTs, 1.6 million NFT transactions a day anytime soon.
I would imagine with our scripting language and whatnot, somebody's already done that, like all things in Second Life. I'm sure.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody can put in. That's a really good point, Brad. I mean, putting NFTs on your wall in Second Life feels great. I mean, go for it.
I hope they've done it, and if they have, please show us. If they've done it, please get to Brett as fast as possible. I'd love to learn what you did and how it all worked.
I was going to say, yeah, that's a Second Life moment. I bet somebody can probably send us a picture of a nice NFT gallery in Second Life somewhere, send it to Strawberry and Brett, like before the end of this meeting.
Exactly.
But yeah, like Brad was saying, I'm really into this blockchain stuff because we worked on it. We built our own, what would technically be called a federated blockchain. So a not ecologically damaging, smaller independent blockchain that was designed to be experimentally the support for goods in high fidelity. So we've learned a lot about that. And like Brad said, the present rate at which we're making transactions today, Second Life's rate of transactions is greater than, I think, the sum of both what Ethereum and Bitcoin could support if put together.
Wow.
So we would overwhelm both those networks immediately if we switched the traffic. I think it's about 20 transactions per second that we're doing in Second Life over to the blockchain, and we would risk doing harm by the ecological impact. Second Life, by the way, is the right in between. There are so many things about Second Life that were designed to correctly embrace a mix of centralized and decentralized technologies from the outset. And I think where we are today is still a very good demonstration of how to judiciously apply both of those things. For example, there are community guidelines around, I guess what we'd call zoning in the real world as a great example, that demonstrate that you can own your own property and have the ability to resell it, but still be subject to appropriate community governance restrictions. That's one of my favorite topics, that, when you look at these emerging, completely decentralized spaces, some of the people that are jumping into decentralized virtual worlds are excited about the idea that only the owner of a piece of land gets to decide what's on that land forevermore, and they set the price of it, and they are in complete control of it. And if you think about it and you play this out, as many of us here know from the early days of Second Life, that doesn't work at all, because kind of owning a piece of land and nobody being able to change what's on it or buy it from you but you allows you to do things like just play loud music and put a very high price on it until you force your neighbors to buy it from you. A community experience that is not good and not desirable. So there's a lot of things that Second Life has done that strikes this balance between centralized and decentralized that I'm very proud of. And I think we're still more in the direction of how the future is likely to be, with fully decentralized solutions that are 100% on chain, very, very ecologically high impact being at the one end wrong. And then something like Facebook, running everything with central moderation being at the other end wrong.
And what about VR capabilities?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we banged our heads against that for a long time at High Fidelity. I mean, people have already done viewers for Second Life that do have VR capabilities. I think, as we all know, because Second Life in its present form allows people to go as far as they want with graphical detail, to the point where the frame rate drops and drops and drops, and the system doesn't keep you from doing that. It lets that be your choice, basically, as a content developer. That means that in many places and on many devices, Second Life offers like too low a frame rate, and VR makes VR makes a significant number of people sick. VR at low frame rate makes people even sicker. So there's a challenge with doing that today. As I've said, though, I think the more important issue with VR capabilities is not Second Life, but VR headsets themselves. VR headsets are a kind of a weird set of psychological tests, if you will. They test whether you're comfortable being, for example, being blindfolded in a room full of strangers, which is often the case when you put on a VR headset. You're putting the headset on in front of a bunch of other people. And as you can imagine, the type of person who's comfortable doing that, blindfolding themselves while standing in front of a coffee table or whatever with other people around, is simply not everybody. It's not inclusive. Not everybody wants to use these devices. Similarly, they make some people sick. So they make some people really sick. And so the problem with VR is that it's not conducive at present to the kind of inclusive, diverse social environment that the three of us are sitting in right now. And so I think that we shouldn't do anything with VR in a mainstream way until that has changed. And I don't think that's going to change for at least 5 years. I think desktop and desktop and mobile experiences will continue to dominate what social virtual worlds mean for at least the next 5 years.
So one of the attractions of Second Life is that it is easy for residents to stay anonymous. Our physical world identity is well protected by Linden Lab. Will this anonymity remain protected in the future?
I mean, deferring to Brad for his comments as well, but I would say that the pseudonyms that have been such a powerful part of making Second Life successful, which do, as you say, protect our anonymity, seem to me to be absolutely critical to to this or any safe future virtual world. We can deliver, as people already use Second Life, you can certainly make the choice to disclose what you care to about your real identity. But the core idea of the option of anonymity, or actually I should say pseudonymity. You said anonymity. I'm going to say pseudonymity. Second Life, as you know, does not prosper as much from the idea of anonymity as it does from the idea of your being able to create a different version of you, which, if you care, if you prefer, is certainly not you. The physical person behind the avatar. So I think pseudonymity is the thing that has been a critical, important, and wonderful design property of Second Life. And I suspect that all virtual worlds that become widespread will adopt it in some fashion.
Yeah, I agree with you, because Strawberry is a persona not only that I use in Second Life, but also on all different social platforms. Brad, were you going to say something? Oberwolf?
Well, there's a couple things. I've often come back, and even in this conversation, and said how shocked I am at how much the virtual world mimics the physical world, in both good and bad ways. But the beauty of the virtual world, and of Second Life in particular, is that you can choose now. We are at points of inflection. As these become more worlds, you could call Facebook and what they're trying to do the government, right? And there are totalitarian governments that before Philip had a glint in his eye of Second Life, were interested in watching over their people. But since Second Life was created, it has been absolutely shocking how much information can be captured about you without your knowledge or approval. And especially in some of the places in the world where it's not even illegal to do certain things, and with lack of a better word, spying on you. And so that's something that we as a company, and absolutely as Second Life, we are going to, let me also say that the way Second Life is going to be successful as a business is by separating itself from some of the others and by interoperating with some of the others. We are going to separate ourselves based on business model. We are not going to lean in to in-your-face advertising to pay for servers. That's a decision. It's a lot easier to go the other direction, by the way, and make a lot of money, especially given the interest right now. You could imagine the interest in Second Life in that way, and we've turned it all away. Similarly, people join Second Life. There's no way for us to know who they are. You have a login. We don't know who you are. If you've used your credit card, maybe there's different things, but that's all by choice. You can join Second Life, and we would have no clue who you are forever, whenever.
I know we have a lot of Fight Club fans out there. Another very funny Second Life moment, I think I've told Brad the story, was that one time I met a very famous research group, very legitimate academic group that studies emergence and things like how cities form based on mathematical principles. And it was kind of a dream to even meet the people that I got to talk to at that team. And it was only because of Second Life, they wanted me to come and give a talk to other scientists at their research lab. Wow. And the leader of the lab asked me, "Hey, Philip, can we get completely anonymized data about how avatars move around in the world? And we'll look at it, and we'll do a report on, we'll do an academic study on whether the way cities form in Second Life is like the way they form and, the way people act in the real world." And I was like, that's so amazing. I love that, that it'd be incredible to just see what your findings are, and, to people. And I said, I was like, well, we can completely, give you absolutely nothing except for a little dot on a map where a person is. And I called up the team back at the office. This was back when I was the CEO, and it was that Fight Club moment where I called up the team and I said, "Hey, I want to give this Santa Fe Institute some of this information about people." And the team said to me, "This is the thing that you told us you would come to us and say someday." You remember that moment from Fight Club? And they told me no. They said, "No, Philip, you told us that, nobody, we never ever even abstract the information like that." And so that's,
and by the way, those people are still working here, so the answer is the same. I just know better than to ask anymore, because Philip told me don't even try. So
Well, it would have been an interesting study. That's a shame. So, some residents are concerned that Linden Lab will be absorbed by Meta, also known as Facebook, due to their new adventures into virtual worlds, which might mark the end of the world many of us know and love. Are there any plans of selling the company, merging with Meta, or is there any reassurance you can offer that this would not be a direction Linden Lab is moving towards?
I can say that I what'll be interesting is to see the interoperability, or the ability to move back and forth one virtual world to another, and what happens under that scenario. So perhaps I could say we will never, if I said this, we will never sell to Meta under any circumstances ever. But that doesn't mean that Meta could not absorb us by offering a better experience to all of our residents. Like, there are things to be afraid of and cautious of outside of making a business decision. And that's right now, currently, what I'm really focused on is what are the right ways to operate with other metaverses. And I can tell you that I think that one of the major ways that we would or wouldn't do that is, through partnerships, certainly not through merging and things like that, because I kind of believe that there's going to be 1,000 to 100,000 to who knows, 1,000,000. I don't know what the definition of metaverse is. If you take the real world, is the United States, is the globe a metaverse? Is the universe a metaverse? Is New York a metaverse? I think all those answers are the same. It may sound like I'm trying to get wish-washy on selling to Facebook. No plans, not interested, don't think it's the right thing, and don't think it would. And also fundamentally believe I don't think it be the right monetary decision. So I wish I could say that the reason I wouldn't do it is only because of a belief in certain things, but we are a company. But I don't think it's the right monetary decision. I don't think that they would have the long-term view that we do right now that can make this successful monetarily and as a world for the Second Life residents. I just think there's a better way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, usually when companies have the success that we've had and are able to be a well profitable company, it makes it a lot less likely. There's not a need for capital, for example. As Brad can elaborate more on, but there's just not a need for capital that would merit looking at that. And as Brad said, I think the other way to look at it is, right now especially, is such an exciting time, and the potential for all of this stuff so huge, but also unknowable, that there's not really a lot of I think, given that we are so successful at providing the service and experience that we do, there's just not a lot of pressure on anybody to even have conversations like those right now. I think right now is a time to sort of look carefully and think carefully about all the madness of everything that's happening, and what are the best things we can do to move forward.
So even today, for the most part, the avatar system we have still holds up against any other out there, especially with expressiveness, gestures, and avatars reacting to others with upper body and eye movement, like as you can see here with our lips moving and so forth. How important do you think it is for all worlds in the metaverse to have these kinds of interactive avatars? And what was it like developing all that? Can you tell us the history of the Second Life avatar?
Well, there's too much. Yeah, there's too much for the time we have to talk about the Second Life avatar. But yeah, here's what I would. Let me answer it a different way, as to say, I think there's this tremendous amount of hype right now about metaverses and about virtual worlds and about avatars as well. Everybody is kind of saying, we're all going to be avatars. We're all going to be avatars. In one way or another. And then every big company out there is trying to figure out how they're going to get their hands on some of the money from that. But what is still the case today is that most people aren't ready yet to become avatars. And I think that Second Life has done more work than anyone as you say, Strawberry, with building and pushing out the boundaries of what it means to be an avatar and what it means to feel like embodied, to feel
Right.
embodied in a virtual world, and I think that the system that we have, my lovely avatar here, if I'm going to call it that, is a historic avatar, that still uses a lot of the kind of version 1 features of the avatar system. It was a fun avatar that I made in over a couple of hours time in a contest I knew I would lose, which was who could make the coolest avatar when we were like 15 people. By the way, Andrew / now Leviathan Linden was the winner of that contest with the best avatar. The capability that we had to really define yourself, and as you're saying, to move your body and everything else, I think we are still absolutely the cutting edge of research with respect to that. That said, if we just grab somebody off the street, in a typical city, and we set them down in front of Second Life, they'll be fascinated, but they won't yet be comfortable becoming an avatar. They won't be ready yet to be embodied and to be, in a virtual world and say, hang out and spend all their free time or their social time in a world. And so I think largely that is actually because of the expressiveness and the capabilities that the avatar affords when you're communicating with somebody, particularly when you're communicating with somebody for the first time. So when I look at Second Life today and I look at Second Life tomorrow, I think about how somebody, through incremental research and development and experimentation, we're going to get to a point, I don't think it's today, like, Meta or Facebook would have us believe, but someday we're going to get to a moment where we are going to get everything done right so that when I walk up to somebody new as an avatar and communicate with them, I feel completely comfortable. I feel that I'm seen. I feel like I understand them. I feel like I understand what they're trying to say non-verbally. I really understand them. I think that we, Second Life, are closer than anybody else to reaching that point. I think it's important to note that we're just not there yet. That's one of the reasons why we don't have 1 billion people diving into the metaverse right now. It's not just the technical constraints. It is that kind of, I'm not ready to be an avatar yet. And I think we're the most likely in our research and in our work to help find that out, because as I said earlier, I think software advances are going to lead the day for the next 5 years or so. And I think we're the ones who are going to keep making those advances, with continuing to increase the expressiveness of the avatar beyond the very high level we've already gotten to. So that's what I think about avatars.
So for the last question, I have to ask on behalf of the community, what's next for Second Life? What would both of you like to see happen with Second Life in 2022 and beyond?
You want to start, Brad?
Sure. I think, mine is more of a continuum. I don't see this as being something that all of a sudden in June we're going to make an announcement that says, hey, this is the new thing that we're doing. I want to see us continue to make the experience better. I believe very much that that more residents and more engagement is the most important thing. Those are the metrics. I'm pretty simple on the metrics that I talk to the team about. I love the fact that we're becoming, so people think that Second Life is coming back, and that's just not true. Second Life has been here and strong and has been growing for a long time. It didn't grow for some years, but it's been growing now. And I just think that that's super important, right? I think in the first LabGab that I did, I took, and at least I gave Philip credit. I said, if you're having a party and it's starting to get late, do you want better food, or do you want more people and better music? And the answer is for at least us and what I think Second Life residents is, it's the latter. So we don't need a bigger venue. We need to just have more fun. And so the more residents we can bring in and the more engagement we can create, that's just going to make the world better, and it's going to make it longer lasting and easier for us all. So that's what I want to see. I want to see consistent improvement in the experience, the engagement, and the number of residents as a metric for how well things are going. that would be my hope for 2022.
That's great. I'll answer that as more of an outsider here because I've not as yet spent the time with the team to really understand the sorts of decisions and allocations we're making about roadmaps. So I'm not making sort of a forward-looking roadmap statement. I can say though, as somebody watching, both from High Fidelity and from Second Life, virtual worlds and what they need, I would make a few observations. One, as I said before, more and more expressive avatars are necessary to get a larger and larger number of people able to participate in virtual worlds. Until people feel comfortable as avatars, we don't have anything. There's hundreds of millions of kids that are comfortable as avatars out there right now, as companies like Roblox and even Fortnite have demonstrated, but that does not yet apply to grown-ups. And I think Second Life is the cutting edge on that. And I think so I think more expressive avatars is one thing that's really important. And there's lots of different pieces of research and work that can do that. Another one is how many people can be in one place at one time. There again, I think Second Life is the leader, but going to a freshman college class or going to a live music event is more than 100 people in one place at the same time, and that's still a technical challenge that is real for the entire industry, not just for Second Life. There again, I think we're a little bit ahead in terms of how many interesting looking people can stand near each other in one place. And then a final one, which is kind of, I think people always bring it up as the elephant in the room or whatever in this stuff, and I would bring it up as well, is just that if you're building an inclusive, wide-reaching experience that's designed to be, say, a social environment for people all over the world, wherever they are with whatever they've got, the one thing that people all over the world have increasingly now, circa 2022, is the smartphone, and it's their primary access point. So I don't have the answers to how to do more things in the way of virtual worlds on smartphones. And I think it really varies, platform to platform. I've often said that I found Minecraft to be one of the really inspiring things that happened post Second Life. And I was fascinated by watching my kids when they were young build with their fingers on a phone in Minecraft. They'd tap, tap, tap with their fingers and they'd be deleting stuff and they'd be digging and making things. And it looked like they were almost editing and building in Second Life, and I was always just blown away that they could possibly do that on those little phones. But I think the question of I guess the way to put it would be, whatever if virtual worlds are to serve billions of people, it'll have to involve smartphones in some fashion. And so those are three kind of outsider statements about virtual worlds in general that I think makes sense to be thinking about.
Hey, Strawberry, if there was ever a real world example of why Philip is joining and how happy I am that he is part of our strategic advice, that he's a strategic advisor, you just heard it, because
For sure.
Can you delete my answer and just use his answer? No, that is the reason why we've come back together, is that is just that.
I'm absolutely not deleting your answer, because your answer was just as good, and I'm so happy to have you. Were you going to say something, Philip?
Nope.
Oh,
Happy to be here.
I thought you were. Well, I do want to, that was the final question I had. I don't know if there's anything you guys want to say to the community, just as a send off, or give you a little bit of a platform here for a second, if you want to take that opportunity. Putting you on the spot, sorry.
It's wonderful to be back, and I hope to see everybody in World. I'm going to get more time walking around. I've got my secret laboratory that I had when I left, and I'm going to start wandering the world and introducing myself again.
Awesome. And how about you, Oberwolf?
Oh, I'm just here for the ride. I'm just watching this all develop and having the time of my life. So thank you, and thank Philip and everyone, and thank the residents. It's been a beautiful experience.
Well, thank you, both of you, for talking to me today. I did try to cover as many of the 300 questions that I received. However, a lot of them were more geared towards the product team. So I do have a plan to bring on the VP of Engineering and the VP of Product on LabGab within the next few weeks. So look out for that. And thanks to our viewers for watching. Keep an eye on the Second Life community blogs for future announcements about LabGab. And remember, stay safe and stay virtual. Bye, everyone.